What's up, and welcome to the Non-Fungible Creator Show. This is your host, Non-Fungible TC, Non-Fungible today and Non-Fungible tomorrow. And today I'm extremely honored and so happy to have Zeneca. Zeneca 34 right now, not 33, but who is a thought leader in the Web3 space. And I'm sure that a lot of you know him and know him from ZenAcademy and the podcasts that he does. So, but for those of you who do not know Zeneca, let us quickly begin the show. So, Zeneca, how are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, so for the audience who've never been to NFTs, who never, does not know about ZenAcademy, can you share more about your background? Because I know before NFTs, you were a professional poker player.
Yeah, sure. So, like you said before, so I got into NFTs really early last year, early 2021. Around February, I became aware of them. March, April, I started getting into like understanding and buying and trading NFTs. But prior to that, for 15 years, I was a professional poker player. Basically started from high school. So like back in 2005, 2006, started playing online poker, and I went to university, but at the same time I was playing poker, and obviously poker is a lot more fun and I was making money at it. So I just sort of decided to pursue that sort of path as a way to make a living and just see where it led. And it just basically led for 15 years playing mostly online poker, but some live in-person poker. And then and then I found crypto and NFTs, and sort of the rest is history. I sort of started falling down the rabbit hole, and I'm still falling.
Yeah, so how do you get into NFTs? Did a friend introduce you to it, or did someone at the poker table share like, oh, check this, even bigger game that's NFT?
Yeah, so it was certainly a friend that, a friend that I knew from poker. Jamie, who's my podcast co-host, he just mentioned NFTs to me in February last year. He's like, "Have you heard about hash masks?" And I had not. I had no idea what he was talking about. And then that was the very first time I even heard of an NFT. And then shortly after that, he sort of explained it. I heard about crypto, I guess, for the first time way back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, just when Bitcoin was first beginning, because a lot of poker players sort of found out about it early, and then some got into it. I did not. I got into it a little bit in 2016, 2017. But then when prices went up, and that was great. But then the bear market hit, and I sort of just like lost interest. I didn't have that deep conviction in the space. I didn't know about NFTs then. And so I left, went back to poker, and then February, March of last year is when my friend Jamie started talking to me about it, and my first instincts and reactions were, "Oh, this is a scam. This is a Ponzi. It just doesn't make sense like a lot of people think to begin with." But eventually, I did some research and came to the understanding that the tech underneath NFTs is a game changer. Basically, it's revolutionary, and that's when I just continue to dig deeper and try to understand the space. And
So out of curiosity, what was the first NFT that you minted?
Yeah, see, the first NFT that I minted was basically this meme project that I was in a group chat that was talking about NFTs, and they had like just for fun minted this. And at that time, I didn't know how to find projects. I didn't know how to mint projects. I didn't know where or like I knew about OpenSea. I was like, okay, you can buy on secondary, but how do people mint these projects? And there were very few minting back then. So they mentioned this project called Dcash. It was like these 8-bit pixelated images, and I like 0.2 ETH on a FOMO ramp. So the more like as time went on, the price increased. I minted them. They didn't even come close to selling out, and the value is close to zero now. But I mean, it was just like a good lesson in FOMO, and I didn't really research it or understand what I was buying. Unfortunately, the next NFTs I bought were art blocks, which have like worked out like historically as just purchases that I appreciated more, I enjoyed more, and financially have done better.
Yeah, and I think it's an encouraging story just by listening to that, because you didn't give up on the first NFT, right? Because
Mm.
usually the mentality would be, oh, I want to mint this and then double the price. But I think the first NFT didn't go as expected. But then you still kept on and minted another project, and that kind of changed the whole narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I would say even the first like many NFTs did not go well. So the first one I minted didn't go well. Art blocks like now went well, but for maybe 2 or 3 months, the floor price on the art blocks that I minted was below mint. Like the project did not mint out, and art blocks just was a very different beast back then. And there were other things that I minted, other things I bought on secondary on OpenSea because I thought they looked cool. I remember there was this AI art project called AI Art House, and I bought a couple of those on secondary. And again, they didn't really do great. I couldn't flip them. There was a project called Rare Pizza where they sold these generative pizzas, and we're trying to just throw a giant pizza party, which they did basically. But like financially speaking, a lot of those projects did not do well. The market was not in a place where too many things were returning hugely. But yeah, I was having fun. I was enjoying it. I was learning a lot. And I guess I was making. Occasionally, I'd mint something or buy something and I would be able to sell it for more. Usually, I wouldn't, and I was definitely sort of quote unquote losing money, or like on paper losing money. But yeah, I mean, I just stuck with it because I had that conviction, and it was honestly just fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think NFT should be fun. It's a fun industry. It's a lot of creativity and things like that. And I know that ever since that you got into NFTs, you set up your own project, which is a ZenAcademy. And I do think a lot of people know what ZenAcademy is, but I just want to focus on a question, and that is, how do you feel right now, after building ZenAcademy and you're able to reach out to people from all over the world and people just come to you looking to learn about NFTs? Like, how do you feel right now?
Oh, I feel great. I think it's a humbling and rewarding and fulfilling position to be in, and a project to sort of be the founder of, and to run and to work at and for and be a part of. The whole reason I started it was because, so for like the better part of last year, certainly from say May through to October, I was fairly heavily flipping NFTs. I was minting lots. I was, following the secondary market, listing lots, and just trying to grow my bankroll. And it was, while it was fun and it was profitable, it was not very fulfilling or rewarding. And it was very similar to like my online poker days, where it's this cutthroat PvP, dog eat dog world. If you win many times, someone else loses. That's not quite always the case with NFTs, but I started looking for what else I could do to sort of just work in this space, have a career in NFTs and Web3. And I had been creating content of various forms. I had my newsletter, I had a podcast. I didn't actually have my YouTube at that time, but I was tweeting a lot, and my tweets were sort of gaining attention. So, it felt good when people were saying, like, appreciating my content, and B, it was sort of blowing up in a way that I felt, that there's something here, and there's a need in the space for more content, basically. So yeah, that's where the idea was born from. And then shifting into launching it and creating basically a community, an academy, a place for people to come and have like a soft landing in the Web3 space, because the learning curve is so steep, and ask questions and have people around to answer and help them. And then move more towards, I guess, structured courses and teaching people about various elements of NFTs, whether it's launching their own project, which I've just done a course on, how to evaluate projects to like buy into, and community management. I have a course coming up on that. Mental health, I have a course coming up on that. So I think, just that's sort of, I guess, what it is in a nutshell, and how and where the idea came from.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing. And one thing that really impresses me is that you were talking about tweeting and having different type of thread and sharing your insight. Is that actually you joined Twitter in March 2021, and it is just almost a year ago with a few more months, and now you have 281,000 followers. And so what would you say is the key to success in building a community? Because it seems like definitely in the numbers it's working, right? And also you have all these engagements, and I do see a lot of people using the crystal ball as the Twitter name. So what would you say is the key to success to building a community and also to build a following, and how to sustain that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say, when it comes to building a community, I would often people say a community, or think of a community in relation to an NFT project or a project in general, like the Discord server and all that. And while yes, that is a community, I would say building the community begins before any of that, and it begins by building your own personal network, and that is your community, the community. Obviously, there's the entire. I mean, as humans, we're all in various communities. We're social creatures by nature. The entire crypto space, crypto Twitter has a community. Within that, there's the NFT space and bubble, and then I guess within that, you build your own communities. And the best way that, best ways I've found out to do it is just sort of find something of value that you can provide to give back, so that people are gaining some insight, some. It could be like educational content. It could be, what I did was like these daily floor stat updates that sort of that in conjunction with my newsletter is sort of what I think really blew it up. And so I was doing these daily floor updates where every day I would tweet out a spreadsheet with the floor price of all the big NFT projects. And I mean, today it doesn't sound like that's valuable at all, but if you go back to say June last year, there were just no websites that you go to see the floor price. Let alone OpenSea did not have the floor price. You couldn't go to the front page. You couldn't go to a collection and see what the floor price was. It didn't even by default sort price low to high. You had to go into a collection and then click the drop down menu and go price low to high, and then look at what the thing was, the lowest listed one was, and that was the floor price. And so it seemed that a lot of people were interested in that information, but there was no way to do it. So I started tweeting out these basically just daily updates of floor prices, day-to-day tracking how they went. And the big thing it did was it saved people time. It saved people time. And if you can save people time, that's the most valuable thing in the world. And it's worth more than money, worth more than gold, worth more than ETH, worth more than a Bored Ape. It's time is truly the most precious thing we have. So finding something of value that you can give back to the community, and then doing it consistently and repetitively, and just being a genuine person about it, and not feeling shy about sharing your content, and building relationships from a one-to-one basis. So like that's sort of what blew up the sort of following I had. But then, a lot of people gain large followings for one reason or another, and you can buy a following, you can buy bots, you can engagement farm. It doesn't really, to my mind, build like a strong, genuine, good community. It sort of like builds a community on a house of sand. And so to build a really strong community, I think it's all about just being a genuine person and someone that people want to just communicate with and associate with, and that sort of goes a little bit hand in hand with the value and content that you can provide. But two, I would say, is just make these like one-to-one personal relationships, and just that sort of will have people remember you and sort of think of you and appreciate you and resonate with you more than any sort of single tweet that goes out to dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. If you can reply to people and have conversations with them and DM them and chat with them in a Discord server, or jump on a call and talk to people, it's all of these things lead to a really, really strong community. And I think just doing it over and over, consistency and repetitively, is really the key. At least for me, that's what worked for me. And I think I've seen it work for other projects as well.
Yeah, and you were talking about being genuine in the space, really letting people know who you are. And that is my next question. Like, why did you decide to dox yourself? Because there's a lot of Bored Apes actually hiding behind the profile pics, doing this and that, but you decide to dox yourself. You have your own podcast. Like, why?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't really care as much about being anonymous. There are certainly valid reasons to remain anonymous. There's privacy concerns, there's security concerns. There is the idea that I guess if you, obviously there's certain people that do it to like avoid tax and regulation and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the idea that you can always dox later, but you can never take it back. So then, people are just sort of, they have no good reason to dox, where I just didn't have a reason not to. And I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of when it actually began. It was probably either like the podcast that I created with Jamie, when we were just talking to each other, and we're friends, we've known each other for 15 years. And so I called him Jamie, he called me Roy, and that was just like a form of doxing. And then I think I went a YouTube show. I was Elio Trades has a really big channel, and he wanted to talk more about NFTs, and he saw my daily stats, and he asked if I wanted to come on, and I thought it was a great opportunity to sort of share my content with a wider audience. And well, he was doxxed, he was showing his face, and I think many people on YouTube were, and I thought, if I'm really wanting to grow my audience, content, and community, it just made sense to be doxxed. And like, again, I had nothing to hide. I'm not trying to do anything shady or avoid anything. So it just, it sort of seemed like something I would eventually have to do if I really wanted to work in this space a lot. I was starting to talk to more project founders, and advise and consult. And again, those relationships work a lot better when you can talk face to face. There's so many in real life meetups, which I still haven't been to, but I'm planning to go to Amsterdam and NFT NYC and meet people, and remaining fully anonymous just sort of devoids so many opportunities to me. It just didn't seem necessary. It didn't seem worth the trade-off.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, why you wanted to, dox yourself during your journey. And I think definitely opens up a lot of more opportunity. And especially in this space, we need more genuine, people to educate everyone, right? And I always think that profile pictures could be bought, but respect is hard earned. And I have to say, you are a person that I truly respect in this place. Because you have been speaking out to a lot of injustice, I would say, in the crypto world, in the NFT world, it's a harsh world, but you have been putting out tweets in, key moments to encourage people within the space. You aren't afraid to speak out to maybe, for example, what you did in the other side deep drop, and because I just think that you are very willing to share your opinion. And also you always emphasize on one thing, and that is humanity and also empathy, right? You even have a thread on empathy. Is there a personal story to this, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's not a strong or a single personal story, at least nothing that comes to mind. It's just sort of, I guess, how I was raised and brought up, with sort of empathy in mind, thinking about others, always sort of just being humble, I guess. My parents come from very humble beginnings, and they really instilled in us the value of hard work and value of money, and just being a good person and being nice to one another, and always trying to help people. And while I didn't always listen to them, certainly as a teenager and in my 20s, I mean, there's been plenty of times where I didn't work hard and I didn't value money that much, especially as a poker player. It's something you sort of have to learn. It's like this, your relationship with money is very different to sort of people that have a traditional job. And I think even in the NFT and crypto space, that, and if you're a trader, that's also the case. But anyway, back to sort of, I would say there's not a single story or anything like that. It was just the way I was raised. So I have my parents to thank for a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, it shows your character, right? Because money could be earned, but characters cannot be bought, right? It's the same thing. Because the reason why we were able to arrange this is that I commented on your tweet, and you were calling out another mutant name, saying that why do you need a 10,000 profile pic to speak to you, right? And the way how people can make money in such a short period of time in this space, it kind of really could make people ego inflate really quickly, right? Because it's just so easy, right? But the way you did it, and someone with so much following who is also so humble, it's just I have great respect for you. I just want to say that. And I thank you for being the voice of reason, simply put, and also for being a voice that has so much impact, at least to 290,000 followers or more, because we do need a voice of reason in the space where you have a lot of FOMO, you have a lot of engagement from, you have a lot of people attacking each other, but we always forget that in the end, we're all chasing our dream in Web3. I strongly believe that there's a reason why we come to this space, even if it's for financial gain, right? You are trying to trying to have a betterment of your life, and that's why you're here, and that's why you want to embrace this technology to build something, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, and there is a lot of hype and FOMO and speculation, and engagement farming, and nonsense out there, but beneath that, the actual community, the people that are here, the people who are like genuinely making up the community, I'd say by and large are just some of the just best people I've ever met in life, because I don't know, we've just sort of like found a sort of little place for us almost, and those who are attracted to NFTs and crypto sort of this early. I mean, I know it's blowing up and has blown up, but it's still extraordinarily early in the grand scheme of things in terms of how many active participants there are in this space. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent of the world's population, or of the people who are on the internet and will eventually, I believe, be involved in NFTs. And I'd say the vast majority of people are just genuinely good people, helpful people, looking out for one another. It's often sort of a vocal minority, I think, that make some people think the space is a little more toxic or negative than it is. But I think the more time you spend just like, again, in Discords, talking to people one-on-one and forming those relationships, even in like the sort of the hype Discords, the ones where you go in and it's mania and everyone's talking about going to the moon and floor price going up, and then it can at an immediate glance seem a little off-putting or fake or engagement farmy or speculative and just based on the money. When you take that sort of away and just talk to the people that are in there and have it like in that mood, that it's often people getting caught up in the excitement, and they're really just they're good people, and they're just really excited about a thing, and they found like people to be excited together with, and then are just having fun and not necessarily thinking about all this bigger stuff. And then you have a conversation with them and you find out, oh, they're just just a great normal person. Yeah.
We're all people, right? We all have
Exactly,
emotions.
yeah.
We get excited, and we're here for a reason. And talking about people, I know that right now in NFTs and in crypto, we're going really difficult times. Even globally, we have supply chain crisis. We have people, even a baby formula crisis in the US, right? So and also with the recent Luna crash and also drama happening in NFTs, what would your advice be to three type of people? Okay, the first type of people who are new people into this space, but who's seeing all this drama happening in the NFT space. What would your advice be to them?
Okay, so for new people, I would say, I mean, my advice to new people is always the same. Basically, it's like be patient and don't rush into anything. And I think now is the same situation. Now is like a really good time. I mean, it's always a good time, but more than ever, to sort of take time to invest in yourself and learn about the underlying tenets of crypto, NFTs, Web3, and you can sort of maybe do it in a way at a time when there's less financial opportunities out there. You might not feel the FOMO as much. You might not miss as much. And sure, it might not seem as appealing as exciting as say 6 months ago, when everyone around was making 10x, 50x, 100x on projects here, there, everywhere. And just because it's a bear market, it doesn't mean that there aren't those opportunities. Like we've seen plenty of projects blow up even in bear markets. But I would say if you're new, just understand that the technology is not going anywhere. The NFTs are not going anywhere. Crypto and Web3 it's just not. It's too monumental and revolutionary and game changing and decentralized that no one can shut it down. No government can shut it down. No industry, no company, no person. It's just the genie is out of the bottle. It's not going back in. So once you understand that and can find a way to have that conviction and just low depth of knowledge about it, you gain the ability to sort of zoom out and see the bigger picture, and then just be patient, ask questions, and zoom out.
And to, as you said, to really understand the underlying technology, right? And so the second type of person would be the people who understand the underlying technology, but who are trying to accumulate like wealth in the space, but going through really difficult times. What would your advice be to them?
I mean, I'd say if you're going through really difficult times and sort of really hurting by this bear market and your portfolio is down 90% and you're really depressed, anxious, etc., maybe, well, first of all, breathe, take a step back and sort of realize that it's just money, it's just financial, it's not the be all and end all. And many, many, many people, I would say almost most people who have found a ton of success in Web3, NFTs, in life, have had similar experiences where their portfolio goes down an enormous amount, and it's sort of like in many cases zero, in some cases beyond zero, they go into debt, they have to declare bankruptcy and like claw their way out of a hole. There's all sorts of terrible scenarios that happen to people, and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, and sort of there's a way out is sort of what I would preface it with. And then I would say, if you sort of can be okay with it and understand that, and thinking about like, all right, so it's happened, you can't change the past, what can I do next, then think about what you may have learned from this experience in these last few months. Often if you're really anxious and feeling the brunt of it emotionally, it means you were sort of overextended, over leveraged. Maybe too much of your portfolio was into crypto, too much was into NFT specifically, maybe too much was into one NFT project. And so try and learn from that, and going forward, maybe take profits more often, or don't invest so much into the space. And make sure that you have a diversified portfolio. You have some in stable coins, you have some in stocks, in cash, in real estate, depending on the size of your portfolio, or you just have some sitting in your bank account, so you can pay for rent and food and all that for a while. Yeah.
Like invest what you could afford to lose. Like that's the word that we always use, right? Don't overextend. So, and the third thing is, because I know you advise different projects and you are a consultant, what would your advice be to projects that are planning to launch the project, but the teams that plan to launch the project, like in this difficult bear market?
Yeah, I've had this conversation maybe a dozen times over the last week or two, because like you said, I talk to tons of project founders and advise and consult in one form or another, and they're all asking the same question, because it's, we were planning to launch now, should we launch, should we delay, or we've already delayed 2 weeks, should we delay more? What do you think? And I guess my general response is, or at least has been, yes. I mean, if you can delay, it's probably not a bad idea. It's really tough to launch a new project in a bear market, especially like a significant one, I would say, that we're in right now, or a bearish phase. Maybe it's not, who knows when you call it a bear market or not, but if you can delay, ideally that's better. But every project is different. So look at sort of the interest in your specific project, and sort of how much attention is there, how excited are people, how many people do you have like following you on Twitter, chatting in Discord, on your mint list. And I think numbers can be faked and fudged and, inflated, and people join for the wrong reasons. But you can just get an idea for like how active is your community, how buzzing is it, and how excited are people. And if it doesn't feel like you're going to mint out or sell out, and you sort of would really like to in the short term, then delaying is usually not a bad option to sort of build up a little more hype attention or just market sentiment. Excuse me. But I would say that a sort of a counterpoint to that is that at the end of the day, none of us know if/when, well, I guess when, because I do believe it's going to turn around, but when things are going to get better. And like this bear market could last, it could end tomorrow, it could end today. This could be the absolute bottom, and it's going to get better. But it could last for another month, 3 months, 6 months, another year. No one really knows. That there's so many factors that play outside of any of our control. And as you mentioned, like the macroeconomic conditions of the world are wild right now as well. So to a certain extent, you can't delay indefinitely. And then I would say try and wait for like a week or two where the market has been stable. So which we've sort of been in up until today. So we woke up this morning and ETH was down another 7%. But for the 2 weeks before that, it had been sitting right at the 2K mark. It was just like very rock solid. And it's sort of like people had begun to adjust to the new normal, and thinking of, ETH at that price. And while obviously compared to all-time highs, market was a little bearish, it wasn't like crashing, and it wasn't causing a lot of fear and anxiety. So I think try and wait till the market is stable, and then launch.
Yeah, I think that's really a great advice and very genuine advice, right? Because each different projects have their own circumstances. I just can't help to really ask you one final question on that aspect. Is that because you've been advising a lot of different projects, you've seen a lot of founders. Is there any way? I mean, is there any chance that, or any moment that you feel burned out? Like a lot of projects. Oh, these are profile pics. Right? It's doing the same thing over and over. Have you ever had this feeling before? And how do you help founders to stand out?
Excuse me. I wouldn't say I felt burnt out on the consulting advising side. I've certainly felt burned out from an investor, a flipper side, a trader side, and that's sort of what led me to advising more and working on this side of the equation. It's very exhaustive, sort of tracking all the new projects and trying to keep up with them and feeling you're gonna miss some. On the sort of flip side, I guess, yeah, I don't feel burnt out, but I feel honestly just like bad for the project founders or some project founders who I just see day in and day out working tremendously hard. And I have this gut feeling, but also deep knowledge that most of their projects are just not going to make it or have that level of financial and commercial success, social success, community success that they're hoping for, dreaming for. And it's sort of, it's a little, I wouldn't say burning out, but a little like taxing in a different way. Like, like having these conversations and like really feeling like certain projects that might not make it. And like, again, I will do everything I can to help them. And they're working tremendously hard, but there's always factors outside of your control. And the reality is, as we all know, most NFT projects don't succeed. There's just too many now, and there's just way too many. So it's about trying to offer a product, a service, an idea that's unique and different, innovative, and doing that, or taking an existing idea, executing extremely well on it, or bridging Web 2 and Web 3 in a new and novel way. But I think the most important thing is building like a genuine community. It all comes down to that. And again, network is your net worth, as the saying goes. And like it's unfortunately, I guess, about who you know more than what you know and what you do. In many instances, so it's a little bit of I guess a shame to see the space, the reality of the space, and know that so many projects are not going to work. But I mean, on the flip side, I get to talk with people whose projects are very successful. I get to talk to people whose projects I didn't think personally, like gun to my head, were going to succeed, and then they do. So I'm like, I never write a person or a project off, no matter what my original instincts or biases might be, because I know that there's always a possibility that I'm very wrong, or that they turn it around, or the market sentiment changes and shifts, and they do something to really capture and captivate the community. So there's plenty of wonderful success stories, and there's so many stories of, like, honestly, for the most part, of the projects I advise and consult on, who maybe they go to launch, the launch doesn't go nearly as well as they were hoping, they don't sell many. I can't even actually think of a single instance where people threw up their hands and were like, all right, that's it, I'm done. It's like, all right, okay, so that didn't go the way we wanted. What can we learn? How do we pivot? What do we do? Do we burn the collection size? Do we cap it here and then launch a second collection in the future? How can we serve the community that we have? And what can we do and build and offer? And sort of like, it's always about learning and paving a way forward. So I think that just anyone that's trying to launch a project now, the learning experience is going to be, it's honestly more valuable than any money you might raise from a sale. So I think that I'm very confident that those that try and launch a project and maybe it doesn't succeed, they're just going to be in such a fantastic position 3 months from now, 6 months, 2 years, to either launch another project, to work with another team, to work on another project, just to build in this space one way or another. And yeah, so I mean, to answer your question, I don't really feel burnt out from this side of things. Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I think exactly, you echo what I think as well, because I think because we're here, especially for project founders, they have hands-on experience in creating a project, right? And right now you have a lot of brands trying to come in, you have a lot of IPs trying to come into NFT. You are in a very great position to share your expertise to these brands and also build with them, or make it even better. So I just think that there's just so much opportunity just by being in this space. Yeah. So,
yeah, it really is. I have a one of the biggest brands in the world reaching out to bring me on as an advisor for their NFT project. I can't say who they are because I had to sign an NDA. But it just shows, I mean, and they're like one of dozens, hundreds. Like every big, like Disney is coming with an NFT department, and so many companies are like, obviously Nike acquired Artifact, and it's like NFTs are coming, and all these big companies are entering the space one way or another. And it's just going to be a really interesting, fascinating, exciting time seeing how those worlds merge. And it just, again, makes me infinitely bullish on the long-term prospects of the space, because it is not going anywhere. It's just not.
So I hope you don't mind me for asking one more difficult question. Because
Sure.
you're talking about different brands coming in, okay? We know Instagram is gonna support NFTs and so on. What is your take? Are you a very hardcore decentralized person? Like, okay, when I buy an NFT, it has to have full commercial right for me as an owner to utilize this IP, like a Bored Ape. Or are you kind of like, oh, I understand that brands are coming in, but that could be a good way to have mass adoption, right? Imagine one day posting a photo on Instagram, and that could be an NFT which could support the person who posted. What is your take on this?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think I am maybe somewhere in between, but I very much do support brands entering the space, big companies entering the space, because as you said, it sort of will help drive mainstream adoption. And a lot of these brands and companies are so large because they understand their sort of the world and their customers, their clients, their user base, and how to like provide value to them. And so if they can do that, but using Web3 technology, and ideally in a Web3 native way, it's all the better and everyone wins. And I think it's necessary for the large brands and groups and things to sort of figure out how to integrate Web3 into their way of things. And so obviously there's a very large spectrum between brands doing things quote unquote the right way or the Web3 way or in line with our ethos, and then those that are not. And I mean, I think that the shining example of a project not doing it is Facebook and Meta, who are, I mean, launching their own metaverse basically. And it came out a couple of months ago, I think, that they wanted to charge like almost 50% fees on secondary market sales, like 30% for the App Store, and then another 20% for the Oculus Store or some, I don't know, whatever it is. And, you know, we're used to OpenSea charging, 2.5%. And people say 2.5% is too high. And then we have LooksRare come out with 2%, which, and then X2Y2, which is 0.5%. And, you know, it's trending towards zero. And then all of a sudden Facebook Meta are like, yeah, 40, 50%. So that, and especially if it's a closed garden metaverse, it's not interoperable. It's sort of like, doesn't use a lot of the fundamental tenets of the space, and then that's bad. On the flip side, there are certainly projects entering the space in a more Web3 minded way and trying to do it the right way. It's always going to be tricky when it comes to IP and licenses and what you can and can't do, because a lot of these companies and brands, the IP is extremely valuable for them, and they don't want to get like lose access to the existing IP, but going forward, they're sort of stuck in this way of thinking of like, if we release something, we want full ownership over it or control over it. And I get that, I see that, and I think that we're going to live in a future where those models exist, but due to the decentralized nature of Web3 and NFTs and what you can do, we'll see all forms. So you have like the Bored Apes with full commercial rights to holders, which it's great, but it's not true crypto decentralized ethos, because at the end of the day, it's a license that is ultimately owned by a company, Yuga Labs. They can revoke that license. They can do whatever they want. They can take away your commercial rights. And we saw that exactly, like where Yuga bought Lava Labs, so apes, and they bought the Meebits and the CryptoPunks IP and everything. They decided, you know what, we're going to increase the rights to holders. We're going to give full commercial rights where they didn't have them. And everyone was like, yeah, this is great. We increase rights. But I think what a lot of people forgot is that, well, what happens if Disney buys Yuga and says, well, we're going to restrict the rights. We're going to change them. And that's just a little bit scary. And then so all the way on that spectrum is this CC0 element to IP laws and rights. And that's, I think, to me, the sort of, I'm really excited by that model. And I think it's the truest Web3 decentralized way. Obviously it has fallbacks and flaws in it, but anyway, a different project with different things. And I think I'm all for big companies entering the space. Instagram entering is going to be, I think, huge for adoption, et cetera, et cetera. It's validation as well, more than anything.
But I think it's important for us as a community to let them know how they could enter the space, like how they
Yeah.
should enter the space, right? Because they're on Twitter asking people to give them feedback, right?
Yeah.
But they're asking for Web2 people for feedback. Yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah, and I think we've done a really good job of that, like in terms of the Web3 community. If a brand comes in and does something that's like an obvious cash grab and just with terrible, like we will by and large be like, that's awful, and we'll vilify them and crucify them, and you know, it's sort of made a lot of them see that that's happened in the past and be like, oh, okay, if we want to get into Web3, we want to do it right. So let's bring on a panel of advisors of people who are in the Web3 space and ask them. And I think those are the projects that are going to succeed the most. And again, I'm on a few panels and where, so they're Web2 brands, and then they ask me and a bunch of other people who've been in the space for a little while, you know, what do you think of this approach? How will a community like this? Is this in line with the ethos? And then it's back and forth. And it's if they're taking the time to think about it and approach it conscientiously, I think it's a good sign and will give them a good chance of success.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Especially you are kind of safeguarding the community as well, you know, as an advisor as well.
Well, yeah, I try,
right? You
yeah.
try. Well, we never know the end result. But I just want to move on with the interview. I know that you are launching an ebook soon. Is there anything you could kind of tease about it or share more?
Yeah. So this graphic you have on the page, actually, this is not for the ebook. This is an NFT NYC thing, which is just to save the date. So we're having an event in New York City, which is in a bookshop because, you know, we're all about education and learning and stuff like that. So and an event space there. But my ebook it's coming out in the next few weeks, and it's nothing brand new or revolutionary or enormous. It's sort of almost like a collection of a lot of the Twitter threads I've written over the last year, which, I mean, you pulled a few of them up on screen, and I think that they resonated with people and people found them valuable. But they're really difficult for people to find, basically. I think unless you're on Twitter that day or that week, you'll probably not see it. And you'll probably not be able to go back and find it unless you bookmark it, and many people don't do that. And then especially people newer to the space will almost never, you know, find a tweet thread that I wrote 8 months ago, which maybe helped a lot of people and resonated with a lot of people, but is just like lost. So we've been going through my old tweets, I guess the most popular ones, and pulling them out and then sort of repurposing the content, you know, cleaning it up, editing it a little bit, putting it into ebook format, and I'm adding a little bit of additional content, so it's not 100% just regurgitated. But yeah, it's basically just repurposed, reformatted existing content, delivered in a different way. And I guess the idea is for it to be sort of this almost like a pick and choose your own adventure type book, where it's not like, all right, you read page 1 and then you finish and read page 50 or 80 or 30. I don't know exactly how many pages it's going to be in order. It'll be like, all right, there's different articles, different topics, and okay, I want to read about networking. All right, there's this. I want to read about empathy. I want to read about marketing, and then just go to different sections in the ebook, and there'll be some thoughts that I've written on that hopefully help people. And yeah, it'll be free as well, just to mention.
Awesome. I think we're all very looking forward to it. You know, it's good to remind ourselves, right? Even it was written in the past. Before we end, is there anything you would like to share, Zeneca?
No, just a call to be mindful, kind, empathetic, nice, to breathe and to just think before you type, think before you talk. It's easier to say than do, and we all get caught up in it. But sometimes it's hard to, like, they're all humans on the other end of the keyboard and other end of the screen. So yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's amazing because you make the best relationships and connections with real people, but sometimes people forget that there are people and get toxic. And yeah, let's try and not be that way.
Yeah, let's just all practice Zen, right? Zen,
Yeah.
you know, I think that definitely has some influence on you as well. You know, Zen, always think before you speak. You know, peace. You know, that mindfulness, right?
Yeah,
So
listening as well is a big thing.
listening.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for being here. For those of you who are watching, Zeneca's social media is on the description link below. Feel free to follow him, support him. Definitely great respect for you, Zeneca. Love what you're doing. Learn more about you today, and hopefully we could have another stream like this in the future, or maybe something to happen. All
Yeah,
right.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeneca. Bye bye.